Hi, welcome to Homesteading Around the Mission.
Hi, and welcome to Homesteading Around the Mission. Today we're going to be going through a recipe that we're calling Mission Patties. And the reason we're calling these Mission Patties is they are made with very simple ingredients, all but perhaps maybe our yeast flakes might be a bit more difficult to get in some mission fields. But these are patties that are extremely versatile. Every time I serve them, everybody has enjoyed them, which is always a plus. And they're easy and simple to make with simple ingredients. So today, join us as we walk through this recipe, and we hope it'll be a blessing for your family too. At ministry over the years, we have held cooking classes, and we've been able to share healthy recipes that have been a blessing to our family, and we're going to do that again today. And one of the things that I always like to share is cooking doesn't have to be difficult. Generally speaking, if a recipe is very complicated or very difficult, it doesn't stay long in my personal family recipe folder. So this is one that's very simple, easy to make, and cooking can be fun, especially if it's kept, in my opinion, simple and easy to do. The more fun it is. So let's get right into it. We're going to start by taking 4.5 cups of water. You're going to need a large pot. So we're going to just fill this up with the water required, 4.5 cups. It calls for warm water, which is going to happen as soon as you put it on the eye, so we don't have to worry about that. And we're going to go ahead and add all of the seasonings that we will need for this recipe, which will be, we're going to add yeast flakes, sage, honey, I think we have some onion powder, garlic, and Italian seasoning, and soy sauce. So for the soy sauce, you're going to need 1/2 cup of soy sauce. So we're just going to put 1/2 cup in here. It's not too much. This is going to give it a very salty flavor. So if you're wondering as you read the recipe why no salt, because soy sauce is already a very flavored and salty ingredient. One of the things we normally do with this recipe, not here in Guyana, but when we were in the States, is we would use the Bragg's Aminos instead of the soy sauce, because I have a gluten intolerance. I'm not completely allergic, but I have had some issues with gluten. We don't do that here. I have noticed since we've been in Guyana and we're eating different wheat and different flour that I haven't had the same issues here in this country as we had back in the States, which is kind of a similar thing I've heard from others who have traveled as well, that the gluten intolerance sometimes seems a bit stronger in the United States than it does in some other countries. We're going to go ahead and add in some of the other seasonings. We're going to take a tablespoon of onion powder. Add that in right there. So we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of sage, which is here, and a teaspoon of the garlic powder. More if you'd like. I'm just going to do the 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. So do that, and let's see what else we have here. Some Italian seasoning. So for the Italian seasoning, you're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of the Italian. We're going to do 4 teaspoons of honey, so you can add those in right here. 4 of those. And then you're going to add, after that, 1/4 of a cup of the yeast flakes. And on the yeast flakes, I will give the same note as I did for the soy sauce, or if you choose to use dried Aminos, or one of the gluten-free versions. Same thing on the yeast flakes. This particular brand I found, I'd really have to think about where I found this, but I found it back in the States, but it is a gluten-free brand of yeast flakes, and there is a difference. I've had regular yeast flakes, say when I was experiencing some issues with the gluten intolerance, and I could tell a difference. So if you are gluten intolerant, you do want to make sure to get the gluten-free yeast flakes. So we are going to do 1/4 on the yeast flakes, which are wonderful to have in your kitchen, high in nutrients, and they can be a wonderful addition to recipes, especially if you are not eating dairy. You can use yeast flakes with cashews and make a wonderful cashew cheese, and actually quite a few other recipes that you can make cheeses out of. They're very, very good. So at this point, that was our seasonings. I'm going to push those aside for now, and we are going to go ahead and heat this until it's boiling. So this is going to be all of your seasonings are in the pot now with the 4.5 cups of water, and we're going to heat it for, boil it maybe like 5 minutes. And once it started boiling, then all we have to do is we're going to then add our oats and cook it for just a short amount of time, and soon it's going to form a very consistent ball, and we're going to take those patties, put them out in the oven about 15 minutes on each side, and that's how simple this recipe is. Stay tuned. So you're joining us now in our living room actually, but this is where my power cord is currently, so I thought I would just do this over here. One of the steps that we will do for this recipe is, normally it would call for quick oats. I don't have the quick oats today. Again, this is, I stress this every time we share anything. If you're in a mission field, you make do with what you have. So if you're watching this and you're in your mission field, maybe even homesteading, and you're an hour out of the city and you can't get to it, make do with what you have. And that's where having a few good machines in your kitchen or around the house that can help you do that work is so vital. For us, one of our favorite things in our kitchen, and when we've been asked what would we take overseas when we've moved now a couple times overseas, our family, to do mission service, and the Vitamix is probably the #1 thing in the kitchen, aside from pots, pans, things like that, that I would say has been wonderful to have. Especially our family is vegan. We don't eat dairy or meat products, so I do a lot of cashew cheeses and other cheese type products in here. We make our own milk in here, and it's extremely versatile. In fact, at one point I had bought a food processor back in the States and ended up still using this the most. And so when we left and I had to choose, I said it would be this one. So what I'm going to do is take the 4.5 cup of oats. These are old-fashioned oats, and we're going to grind them until they're fine, because they will work better in the patties and they'll have a better consistency if they're more like the quick oats, and I just don't have those again. I'm using the dry container. We are going to grind this until it's close to fine. You can see right here it's already almost done. So now our seasonings have boiled. We're going to go ahead and add in the oats, and I do still have some larger bits of oats in here, and that's fine. You just want the bulk of it to be a little more ground than it was. It doesn't have to be a fine powder. That's not what you're looking for. Just, again, it's probably even ground a bit more than it should be, but something close to quick oats texture is kind of what you're looking for. So we're going to pour this right in as it's boiling. All of the oats there. And We're good there. Now about 5 more minutes. It's really, really simple recipe. About 5 minutes, and you just want to mix to make sure that your consistency isn't clumpy, that you've got everything kind of smoothed out in here, and it's going to begin to thicken just like if it were regular oatmeal. And once it does, you'll see here shortly, it will absorb all of the liquid, and then we're going to make patties out of these, put them in the oven, and you're ready to go. For the next part, I want to be able for you to see, and I'm actually alone today. Normally our son is the one videotaping, and this is more of a bit of a selfie video. So I want you to be able to see what's going to happen here with forming the patties. So I'm going to be headless for a little while, and you get to form the patties. Wait till the mixture is cooled just a little bit, and then you can start doing this. But I'm going to show you what we do, and we're almost in the home stretch. So at this point, I take a mason jar. I'm taking a bit of a smaller one, and I'm only using the ringed portion of the mason jar. And before I do this, I do not have cooking oil spray, so what I'm doing right now is rubbing coconut oil onto my pan. If you have parchment paper or cooking oil spray, either would work wonderfully here. I do not. But I'm going to use that same coconut oil, and I'm going to rub it around the lid of that mason jar, because this is actually going to be what we're going to use to make the molds of our mission patties. At this point, everything has cooked, and hopefully you can see it here. Touch the screen so you can see it. And you can see that it's just kind of a bit of a glob right now. We are going to form that into something wonderful, easy, and delicious. And I still have the coconut oil on my hands, which is very helpful. And it really doesn't matter how you get these onto the baking sheet at this point, because, like I said, we're going to use the lid, and it's going to be our mold to make these quite pretty once we get them on there. So I'll just do a few just for sake of showing you right now. But what you do is fill the mold or the mason jar lid as full as you can, scraping it down and pushing it into the lid. Hopefully you can see that. And when you take the lid off, you're going to have a nice, completely formed patty. So you can see the mixture is already holding together very well because I'm lifting it off, and you got a nice patty there. So we'll do a few more of these, and then after this, all you have to do is put these in the oven for about 15 minutes on each side. And you're going to set your oven to 350 degrees. Need to preheat. Now is a good time to get it ready, up to about 350. And again, you can see how quick and fast these are. We'll just take the top off of this one and push it down. And right there, you can see that was maybe, I don't know, where did that take us? About 3 minutes. And we have 4 patties ready to go. So I'll show you that. After they have cooked, we'll take them out and I will show you what they look like completely done.